It's official pick time. Gun to your head. The cartel is waterboarding you, saying, give me the winner for every single fight on UFC Vegas 104. I had to do a lot of due diligence on this card. Okay, if you watch my early picks video, I gave you my early leans. I go back, I watch the tape, I look at some interviews, I check out the IGs, and I give you the official picks in this video. Let me tell you, before we get into it, picks and bets are very different. These are gun to your head. If you have to choose the winner, it doesn't mean I'm going to bet it, and I'll let you know which sides I actually do consider for a bet or what I would not consider for a bet or what I think the value is on, but this is the picks video. If you want the bets, wait for the best bets video coming out tomorrow on Thursday. Let's scroll all the way to the bottom. There are timestamps throughout this video. If you want to look at a certain fight and take my pick, you can jump through that. But we always have to start with the first fight of the night. Judice Duben and Judice. 75% of people are picking Judice Duben on Tapology. That says a lot to me, but she's still a huge underdog here, and I think she's the rightful underdog, but I don't know that Judice is the rightful favorite at minus 400. I think Judice is more proven at this level, even though she's had back-to-back losses. I think she's probably got more volume. I think she's got the durability. I think she's got the cardio. At women's flyweight, you just really can't rely on big overhand right knockouts. And I think Judice can withstand the early onslaught from Judice Duben. And if she can do that, I think she outvolumes her to a decision. So I'm going to take Judice, but Judice Duben, she had a viral knockout on the Contender Series, but her level of competition is just not good. It is terrible. And I know she's training with Rose Namajunas and Miranda Maverick in Colorado, I believe, which is good for her. And maybe she comes into this one looking a little bit in better shape. She was a little tubby on the Contender Series, but maybe that helped her with the knockout. But I think just over the course of 15 minutes, I think Judice probably does a little bit more. Maybe she can have some grappling success in this one. So I'm going to take Judice for the official pick, but at minus 400. Not looking to bet that whatsoever. Let's move on. Josiane Nunes, Priscilla Cachoeira. I've gone back and forth on this one because I think it'll probably be a very close, competitive slug fight that probably goes to a decision. And at that point, it's up to the judges. Maybe who is the one pressuring. Maybe who's the one that's wearing the damage a little bit more. And maybe whoever just, throws the other girl up against the cage, maybe lands a takedown. And I think that's probably Josiane Nunes. I really do. I think Priscilla Cachoeira probably not going to wear the damage as well as Josiane Nunes. Probably not going to be the one moving forward as much as Josiane Nunes. Not to say that Cachoeira is a girl that likes to fight off the back foot. But Josiane Nunes, being 5'2", just puts her head down and swings. And girls have to respect it because she does have some power in her left hand. And she likes to just crash the pocket and throw you up against the cage. Maybe she can get a takedown here on Cachoeira, who has a abysmal ground game. Now, it looks like she's training at MMA Masters, which is cool. She's taking some time off. And maybe she just comes back and looks a little bit better. But Nunes is the younger fighter. I think she can land some of those overhand lefts, keep the pressure on. If it goes to a decision, I want the girl that's pressuring, the girl that wears the damage a little bit more. So I'm going to take, or a little bit better, I should say, not a little bit more. Give me Josiane Nunes for the official pick. And let's move on to the flyweights. Daniel Barez and Andre Lima. I like Andre Lima. I think Andre Lima is a really solid prospect for the flyweight division. I think he's improving every time he goes out there. Last time out, he's a pure Muay Thai guy, really, and he kind of just ragdolled Felipe Dos Santos on the ground, and he looked, he's huge for the weight class, strong guy, strong in the clinch with that Muay Thai background, and his ground game is improving a lot. He's shown 15 minutes of cardio. He's shown he can win a decision. I think he comes into this one and does what he does against Daniel Barez. Barez is going to be dangerous in the early rounds. He's got really nice pocket boxing, but I don't know that Andre Lima is going to be sitting in there in the pocket with him. I think he'll try to keep him at range, and when Barez does crash, he'll probably try to clinch him up, look for those Muay Thai strikes in the clinch, and maybe try to take him down. I don't know that Barez has, the greatest ground game. He's opportunistic with his submissions, but I think Andre Lima can fight him off and maybe find a finish of his own here. So give me Andre Lima for the official pick to stay undefeated. Let's move on. Women's strawweight, Stephanie Luciano and Sam Hughes. I leaned with Sam Hughes early on in the week, and I think I'm just going to stay with it. After watching the tape and just looking at what they've done, I think Sam Hughes can win this fight. I really do, because Stephanie Luciano, she's a solid striker, but her last 2 fights were against Talita Alencar, who's 5'1", maybe. Like, she's probably 4'11", 5 foot. Not a striker at all. She's 34 years of age and like a champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but outside of that, she has nothing. So when the fight's on the feet, Talita Alencar offers no resistance whatsoever. And she went to a draw with her the first time, and then in the UFC, she picked up the win, and it was pretty straightforward. She won that fight. This is a completely different fighter. Sam Hughes, pretty solid overall fighter. Good takedown defense, solid offensive wrestling, great cardio. You know she's tough. She's got solid volume on the feet. She's just not a super gifted athlete. But you know she's going to go in there and fight for your money. And if my life is on the line, I want Sam Hughes to be in control of it, going up against a girl that I don't really think is all that good. I think Luciano, her regional opponents, not that great. Really not that great at all. She's had one UFC fight against a fighter that I don't really think should be in the UFC. Sam Hughes has been there, done that. She's fought some really good girls. She's only 32, and I think if she can extend this fight, she could pull away, win the second and the third, and maybe just have a good amount of success in round 1 to maybe take it. So give me Sam Hughes to win this one. It'll probably come down to a close decision, but I like Sam Hughes to get this one done. I'll take Sam Hughes for the official pick. Moving on. Carlos Vera, Josias Musasa. I'm going to go with Musasa. He is a huge favorite at minus 800 or something. Would not play that. But Carlos Vera, I don't think has any chance outside of catching him with some type of submission, or I don't even know if he's going to be able to hold him down. Like, I think he's just going to have to catch him with some type of submission, because on the feet, Musasa is going to be pressuring. He's going to be throwing a lot of big combinations, and he's shown a pretty good get-up game. When he fought the Tanzalovi on the Contender Series, he was getting taken down here and there, but he was getting right back up. And I'm not saying that, Carlos Vera can't submit it on the ground, but it kind of seems like he's not going to be able to control him, because Musasa is just so explosive. It's all explosive get-ups. And against a jiu-jitsu guy like Carlos Vera, who's kind of just crafty with it, he's not really a guy that's going to hold you down and be strong on top and keep top position. He's going to be looking to end the fight with some type of submission. I think Musasa could get back up to his feet. So I think it's pretty much submission or bust for Carlos Vera, which could happen because Musasa is not really the best jiu-jitsu player. And I don't really know that I can say that he's not, but I just don't really assume so, because he's still training in Africa. And I don't assume there's a lot of high-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But maybe there is. Who knows? I think Josias Musasa likely wins this fight by KO or decision and gets to the win. So I'm going to take him for the official pick, but just a greasy one that you should probably just keep your money in your pocket. Moving on to another one where the line is pretty crazy. It's So Young Yu, who's minus 600. I'm going to take him for the pick, but, there's always a lot of red flags when you get a road to the UFC guy at minus huge dollars. And AJ Cunningham is not exactly the greatest fighter to fade a guy like So Young Yu with. But the weirdest thing for me is that AJ Cunningham's coming down to 135. Don't know why. He's going to be huge. I don't know if he's going to be able to make the weight, so maybe he comes in overweight, and then he's just even more big than So Young Yu. But I don't know if it's going to matter. Like, AJ Cunningham, he's a dog in there. He throws a lot of volume, and it's not really like his striking is terrible, but he's very hittable. Leaves himself out there to be hit just because he's kind of all offense. Doesn't really care what's coming back at him. Offensive wrestling, not amazing. Defensive wrestling, not amazing. He's just kind of there being tough. And I think So Young Yu is probably the more skilled fighter, but UFC debut against a big opponent who is very tough. Maybe he doesn't have success, and maybe he just crumbles. But I think he's probably the more skilled fighter, and I think he probably wins this fight. I think he could probably hit AJ Cunningham with some shots on the feet just because he's there to be hit. Could probably mix in some takedowns, use his jiu-jitsu, which is his strong point, and pick up a win that way. So I'll take So Young Yu for the official pick. And let's move on to the heavyweights. Ryan Spann, heavyweight debut, taking on Waldo. And, I really have never been a huge fan of Ryan Spann, but he is dangerous. And you always have to be cautious of that first round with Ryan Spann because he's got big power. I'm interested to see how he looks on the scales because I just watched his interview and I'm like, he's happy he's eating, but, his cardio has never been good. And maybe that's due to the weight cut coming down to 205, that his cardio just kind of drops off. But at heavyweight, if he's just eating all this food and not really training as much on his cardio because he doesn't have to make the weight, is his cardio going to be better or no? I'm not really sure. It's probably not something that you can predict. Ryan Spann's fight IQ is also not that great. It's a wild card. With Waldo, you kind of know what you're getting. You're getting a tough guy who's never been knocked out, who has some decent fight IQ, solid boxing, not the most power in the world, but, if Ryan Spann is starting to tire out, then Waldo could definitely TKO him. So I'm going to go with Waldo for the official pick here. I just think where he's at in his career, he kind of knows what he's more about. Ryan Spann's just trying to change things up, and maybe that works out for him. Maybe he picks up an early finish. I would say it's hard to imagine Ryan Spann wins this fight by decision, but we've seen crazier things. And I think if the fight does extend, Waldo will start to pull away. So I'll take Waldo Cortes Acosta to get this one done for my official pick. To the main card, Sungwoo Choi and Kevin Vallejos. It's going to be Kevin Vallejos because Sungwoo Choi not exactly shown the best durability, but he is going to look a lot bigger than Kevin in there. And Kevin is probably just likely just going to walk through, whatever Sungwoo Choi is throwing out there. Not that Sungwoo Choi is some great striker at range. He's kind of a guy that gets a little bit over anxious and goes into the pocket, and that's kind of when he gets clipped. And if you go into the pocket with Kevin Vallejos, he's going to make you pay. He's a tough guy, only lost to Jean Silva. I think he comes in here and knocks out Sungwoo Choi within the first 2 rounds. And I think I don't want to say he does it easily because Sungwoo Choi is not a bad fighter. He's had some decent wins over the years, but at this point, all the momentum was with Kevin Vallejos, and Sungwoo Choi is probably getting his walking papers. After a loss here, it seems like they're feeding him to the prospect here, and they want to get him off the roster. So I'll take Kevin Vallejos to get this one done. I'm sure almost everybody is picking Kevin Vallejos this week, so it's probably not one that you're too interested in. Let's move on. Dair Nurgozhay taking on Brandon Ribeiro. I was considering Brandon Ribeiro, but, after watching more tape on Nurgozhay, it's not super flashy, but it is really effective. I got to give him his props because he's not a guy that you look at him and you're like, wow, this guy must be a beast. But he is clean. He's clean on the feet, very accurate, times his shots really well, counters really well, slips, doesn't really move his feet all that much. He's not bouncing around in there. He's kind of more plotty, a little bit flat-footed, but he keeps his range very well, and he utilizes the body kick and the head kick, and then he works off that with his hands. And I think Ribeiro is probably just going to have trouble hurting the guy because he can hit those calf kicks from the outside, but Nurgozhay is going to pick up on that. He's probably going to start countering it. And even if Ribeiro tries to, throw the jab out there, he's probably going to be countering that. And Nurgozhay is probably going to have a massive grappling advantage in this one, just as far as winning minutes on the mat. Nurgozhay could easily just take down Ribeiro. Ribeiro will probably look for some type of guillotine, try to sub him. Nurgozhay gets out of it. He's on top. He's heavy on top, lands some ground and pound, and looks good there. So the only way I see Ribeiro winning this one is some type of big right hand that knocks him out or some type of fluke submission. It's going to be tough for Ribeiro to win this fight by decision, in my opinion. So I think Nurgozhay wins the minutes here and wins the fight. So I'll take Nurgozhay for the official pick. Damon Blackshear, Cody Gibson. Damon Blackshear is about -4, almost -500. And I think it's somewhat warranted because, Cody Gibson is not exactly the most dangerous guy in there on the feet. I don't think he's going to be knocking out Damon Blackshear. Maybe he could crack him with a nice right hand, but I think Damon is going to be keen to that. I think he's probably the more effective striker at range. And when he gets into the wrestling exchanges, Cody Gibson's a good wrestler, but I think Damon Blackshear is the better grappler. Even if Cody lands a takedown on Damon's going to be very tough to hold down. He's going to be scrambling, and he's probably going to win the scrambles. So I think Damon's got him covered on the mat. I think he's got him covered on the feet. And I think Damon could probably find a finish here on the ground because he is very tall, very long for the weight class. And so is Cody Gibson. But Damon has fought guys that are also his size. And you look back at Jose Johnson. He submitted Jose Johnson with a twister in round 1. So I think Damon could probably find a submission here against Cody. And if he doesn't, I think he wins enough minutes to win the fight by decision. So I'll take Damon Blackshear for the official pick. Another big favorite. Another favorite that I'm going to pick. Here's a favorite I'm not going to pick. Alexander Hernandez taking on Kurt Holobaugh. And I'm going to take the flyer here on Kurt Holobaugh because Kurt, to me, is kind of a tough matchup for Hernandez. I think Hernandez is going to need to have either some grappling success where he's on top position, winning minutes that way, or he's going to have to find some type of knockout. Because Kurt Holobaugh, on the feet, he's there to be hit, but he's going to hit you with 2 or 3 more than you're throwing at him. And Hernandez has shown he's not exactly the best fighter when he's in these fights on the feet where it goes 15 minutes, or at least extends into the late second, into the third, and guys are pressuring him. And that's exactly what Kurt Holobaugh is going to do. He's going to pressure you with boxing combinations, throw you up against the cage, look for takedowns, and just grind you out. And on the ground, Hernandez could probably get some takedowns on Holobaugh because Holobaugh is not exactly the hardest guy to take down. But Holobaugh is going to be threatened with a lot of submissions, and maybe that gets him into trouble not finding those submissions, and he's on the ground on his back. But I don't even know that Hernandez is going to look to grapple in this one. Hernandez is not exactly the guy that's going out there shooting double legs every fight. So that could just not even be a factor. So on the feet, I think Kurt Holobaugh is the guy that's going to be pressuring. I trust his durability, even at 38. You know, he just went through a war with Kanan Krzyzewski and pretty much ate everything that Krzyzewski had to throw at him and wasn't really faced. He was just walking through it, throwing his combinations. And if he continues to do that against Hernandez, he's going to wear him down, and he's going to win the later half of the fight. And could maybe find a finish, but if it goes to a decision, I think Kurt Holobaugh does enough to win on the scorecard. So I'll take Kurt Holobaugh for the official pick. There's a dog for you. To the co-main event, Chidi and Njokuani taking on Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. I think this is a great fight. This is one I've gone back and forth on. And I'm going to take Chidi here. And I'm going to tell you why. Because at range, he's so much bigger than Zaleski that I think he can win minutes at range, just poking away. And if Zaleski is going to look for takedowns, I think Chidi could defend the initial takedown. And when they're in the clinch, Chidi is nasty in the clinch. So I think Zaleski is going to have to get really creative to win this fight. And it's probably going to have to come down to a lot of forward pressure, a lot of activity on the feet. But Chidi's going to be there, being just as active on the feet earlier on. So I think he's just going to have to wear down Chidi. And I don't even know that Chidi's going to get worn out at 170. You know, at 185, he went on that 3-fight losing streak, moves down to 170. And he's so much bigger than a lot of these guys, so much stronger. Even at 170, he's so built that when these guys try to take him down and he stuffs the initial shot, they're in the clinch, and he's just kind of bullying them. So I like Chidi in this fight. I'm going to take Chidi for the official pick. I think he could find some type of KO, but I know Zaleski is very durable, which is ultimately why I'm not super gung-ho on Chidi to win this fight, but I am going to take him. Chidi, by points, might be a nice little play just because Zaleski is that durable, and Chidi might just end up winning 2 out of the 3 rounds based on damage and winning the minutes from the outside. So I'll take Chidi for the official pick. I like him this week. There's another dog for you. To the main event, Marvin Vettori and Roman Dolidze. So, huge thing in this one is listening to Marvin Vettori's interview on MMA Junkie. A lot of red flags. A lot of red flags for Marvin. And then I think there's some green flags on the side of Roman Dolidze. I've seen some improvements in the guy's game. He lost to Marvin. I went back and watched that fight. Roman was pretty much just spamming overhand rights, falling into the pocket, and kind of wore himself out. Not to the point where he was gassed, but to the point where his striking got really sloppy. His footwork looked really sloppy. And Marvin, I think, took the last 2 rounds. I think Roman won the first, but I think Marvin won the last 2. And then he fought Imavov, nearly got KO'd in round 1. and then was pretty much just dead after round 1. Somehow, a judge scored that fight a draw. I have no idea how, but Dolidze never gave up on himself. He was the one that was moving forward. He was pushing Imavov up against the cage, trying to make it dirty, trying to make it grimy. So he never gave up on himself. He's a guy that's going to fight to the end of the bell. And then his last 2 fights against Anthony Smith, he looked a lot more calculated. His footwork looked better. And even against Kevin Holland, he wasn't like trying to rush in with just big overhand rights. So I think his striking is improving a little bit. And I think if he takes those improvements here against Marvin Vettori, Vettori's last performance against Cannonier, he got a brutal beatdown. And then he was off for a little bit, and then he got injured with that shoulder. And in the interview, he was kind of didn't really want to talk about it that much. His shoulder injury, like he was saying how it was not a good injury, like it was really bad. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to fight again, like all these different angles that you have to have your shoulder in to try to be ready for a fight. And they were asking him about it earlier on in the interview, and he's like just kind of shrugging it off. Like he didn't really want to talk about it. So I don't know if the guy's injury is really that healed. Like, I don't know. But I do like him moving to ATT. I think that's good for him. Training with some good middleweights there. But ultimately, the first fight between Vettori and Dolidze was pretty close. And I think if Dolidze makes some changes to his game, he could have won that fight. And I think he's made some improvements. And one thing we didn't see in the first fight was any type of grappling. It was a fight that played out on the feet the entire time. And I got to figure if the fight goes to the ground, Roman Dolidze, what an 80cc champion, like I think he's probably going to have an advantage on the ground. Now, Marvin's a guy that's tough to take down, got good wrestling, but I don't know that his BJJ is like amazing. I don't know if that Dolidze is going to go in there and sub him, but I think Dolidze could probably give Vettori some problems on the ground. So maybe that's an aspect we haven't seen of the fight. And then I also think, cardio-wise, like Vettori, I think his cardio is better than Dolidze's, even though I think there are some improvements from Dolidze in that department. So, if we go back like a couple years, or at least before the injury, I would probably say Vettori. But considering he's off that injury, I don't know how he's going to look. I don't know how this man's going to look. It's one that I'm probably just going to pass on overall. But considering the type of fight that Dolidze brings, he can make it dirty. He can make it grimy, grind you up against the cage, trying to defend these takedowns. And that could really mess up your shoulder. I think back to like TJ Dillashaw versus Aljamain Sterling when TJ's shoulder was completely fucked. And Alja just went out there and put him through the ringer with the grappling. And TJ just couldn't have an answer because he's trying to, post on his shoulder. His shoulder's popping out. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Vettori, but if you're coming off a major shoulder injury and you're going up against a guy in Dolidze who has power in his hands and also has the ability to just grind you out up against the cage, take you down on the ground, and twist up your limbs, it's probably going to be a problem. So, official pick, I'm going to go with Roman Dolidze in this one. It's not one that I would have a ton of confidence in, but I'm taking the shot on him because of all the unknowns with Vettori, and considering Dolidze's got a little bit of momentum here. I think he's got some improvements in his game that he can bring into this one, comparing it to the first time they fought. Don't like that it's 5 rounds for Dolidze, but I'll trust him that he's conditioned for 25 minutes. So he'll be my pick, and that'll do it for the official picks video. I appreciate you for watching. Like the video for me, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below what your picks are. Till next time, HI Picks.